if inflation is easing, why does your supermarket bill in New Zealand still feel like a punch in the gut? You compare the trolley from last year to the one today, and it looks the same, sometimes smaller, yet the receipt keeps climbing. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the supermarket duopoly, how we got here, and what's actually changing in 2025. By the end, you'll know what really moves prices, what's mostly noise, and what you can do today to pay less at the checkout. Let's start with the obvious. Two names dominate the aisles. Foodstuffs, think PAK'nSAVE, New World, and Foursquare, and Woolworths New Zealand, the company rebranding countdown stores to the Woolworths banner. In many suburbs, it's one of them, or the other one. That's not just a vibe. It's the basic structure of our grocery market. When there are only two big competitors, they watch each other closely. They also set the rules of the game for suppliers who need access to shelves to survive. That's your breakfast, your dinners, your kids' lunchboxes, all moving through two funnels. So why are prices still stubborn? Part of it is geography and scale. 5 million people, long skinny islands, and lots of distance between farms, distribution centers, and your local store. The fixed costs of moving goods here get spread over fewer shoppers than, say, the UK or the US. Another part is tax. New Zealand charges a flat 15% GST on most goods and services, and unlike many countries, that includes most food. When you compare prices across borders, remember that some places zero-rate basic groceries or carve out exemptions. Here the baseline includes GST for nearly everything in your basket. But structure and tax aren't the full story. Competition itself hasn't delivered the bite consumers hoped for. A few years ago, the watchdog took a microscope to the sector and concluded the obvious. Competition wasn't working well for shoppers. That finding kicked off a cascade of reforms: a Grocery Industry Competition Act, a new grocery commissioner, a mandatory code of conduct to protect suppliers, and rules that force big retailers to consider selling groceries at wholesale to rivals, so smaller players can actually stock competitive ranges at competitive prices. You've also started seeing something new on shelf tickets: unit pricing. That's the little per 100 grams or per liter number designed to cut through the fog of promotions, pack sizes, and specials. In stores, unit pricing is now required. Online, it's being rolled out as well. This matters because promotions can be noisy. A flashy red tag doesn't always beat the everyday sticker on the same shelf. If you train your eyes to find the unit price first, you'll win the shelf in about 10 seconds. There's another uncomfortable piece: pricing accuracy. Shoppers and the regulator have found that scanning errors and confusing specials were not rare one-offs. Cases have hit the courts. Some stores have entered guilty pleas to misleading or inaccurate pricing. Consumer groups are pushing for automatic compensation when the shelf price doesn't match the till. Why does this matter beyond a few dollars? Trust. If you can't trust the ticket, you buy more defensively and switch less often. And that dulls competition. Accuracy keeps the game honest. Now, 2025. What's actually changing this year and next? First, the regulator isn't just watching. There's a live inquiry into wholesale supply. The idea is simple. If small chains or new entrants can reliably buy stock at fair wholesale terms, they can open stores and offer you real choice. If the only way to match the big two is to be the big two, competition stalls. Second, the government has signaled it will speed up approvals for new supermarkets. In plain English, fewer years of wrangling over planning rules and more head-to-head stores where people actually live. Third, unit pricing continues to embed online, which matters as more households shop on their phones. What about a third force? You've already seen a taste. Costco arrived in Auckland with a very different model: bulk sizes, low margins, and membership. It's not a like-for-like supermarket for everyone, but it puts real pressure on prices in the catchment around it. The conversation now is whether that footprint expands beyond Auckland and whether other challengers can scale. It's hard to go national overnight. You need sites, suppliers, trucks, workers, and capital, but pressure at the edges still flows through the system. Even one credible store in your area creates a price check the big two can't ignore. Let's talk about the bill in your hand. Food prices have cooled from the worst spikes, but they're still rising year on year. Dairy, meat, and certain produce have led gains at different points. If you feel whiplash from butter one month and broccoli the next, you're not imagining it. New Zealand exports a lot of what we produce, and when global prices or weather hit, the domestic shelf feels it. That's not unique to us, but the duopoly amplifies how those shocks translate into the price you pay. Okay, structure, taxes, enforcement, and new entrants explain the why. But what can you do this week to bring the number at the bottom of your receipt down? Start with unit pricing. Make it a habit to read the small number first. It cuts through packaging tricks like family-size packs that are sometimes worse value than two smaller ones. Second, rotate stores. Even once a month. When retailers know you only ever shop at one location, they don't have to fight as hard for your basket. A periodic switch forces the local price match machinery to wake up. Third, dodge the multi-buy traps. 2 for $10 isn't a deal if you only need one, and the unit price often shows it isn't the cheapest option anyway. Fourth, audit your receipt. Scan errors happen, and they get picked up fastest when customers calmly point them out. If a special didn't apply or a shelf price didn't match, ask for the lower price. You'll often get it. Fifth, cook with the season and swap within categories. Swap lettuce for cabbage, steak for mince, cheddar for a dam. Little substitutions shave dollars off the same recipes. Now, will removing GST from food fix it? It's a popular idea because it sounds simple. Take off 15% and problem solved. But here's the catch. Countries that have cut food taxes don't always see the full benefit flow through to shoppers. Some of the cut gets eaten up in the supply chain, administration becomes more complex, and the savings can be uneven. That doesn't mean tax policy never matters, it does. But if you want consistent relief, it has to come alongside competition you can feel in the dairy aisle, not just at the tax table. What about breaking up the duopoly? It's a line you'll hear when people are frustrated. The truth is, breakups are blunt instruments with big risks and long timelines. The faster path in New Zealand has been to open the door wider, force fair wholesale access, speed up new store approvals, and enforce basic honesty around pricing and promotions. These are boring, technical levers, but they bite. And when they bite together, you see it in the monthly food price index before you feel it in your wallet. That lag is real. It takes time for supply chains to requote, for buyers to renegotiate, and for competitors to open doors and turn on lights. Let's put all of this into a 1-minute checklist you can remember. 1. Treat unit pricing like a superpower. If the shelf is noisy, the unit price is your signal. 2. Shop a different banner once a month. Even if it's just for pantry staples, you'll trigger competitive responses. 3. Buy produce like a local chef seasonally and swap within the recipe. 4. Watch for repeat cycle specials. Some items have predictable promo rhythms. Stock up within reason when the unit price is genuinely low. 5. Check your receipt before you leave. Polite corrections change store behavior more than you think. 6. Vote with your feet. If a new entrant pops up near you, even a warehouse club, split your shop. Competition doesn't start in Parliament, it starts in your suburb. So where are we headed through the rest of 2025? Expect more headlines about pricing accuracy. Expect the wholesale inquiry to recommend stronger settings if rivals still can't get reliable supply at fair margins. Expect the fast-track approach for new supermarkets to matter most in areas with only one option today. And expect unit pricing online to quietly become your best friend, especially for households that rely on delivery or click and collect. None of these levers is a silver bullet. Together, though, they chip away at the structural weight sitting on your weekly shop. Before we close, remember this. You are not powerless in a market dominated by two big players. Every time you buy, you send a price signal. Every time you compare unit prices, you reward clarity and punish confusion. Every time you choose a rival or raise a polite scan error, you enforce rules that protect everyone. And every time you share what you're seeing, real examples, real dates, you help regulators focus where it counts. Here's my challenge to you this week. Pick 3 high-spend items you buy often, say milk, eggs, and your go-to bread. Check the unit price across 2 stores, in person or online. Screenshot the differences. Note any mismatches between shelf and checkout. Then adjust one habit, a brand swap, a store rotation, or a seasonal substitution. Do that for 1 month. You won't fix the system alone, but you will pay less, and you will help steer the system toward better behavior. If this breakdown helped you understand why groceries cost what they do and what's changing in 2025, hit subscribe. In our next episode, we'll track whether wholesale access is actually delivering cheaper baskets for smaller players, and we'll test unit pricing online with a real-world shop. And if you've seen a dodgy special or a price that scanned higher than the shelf ticket, drop the store and date in the comments. Your data points make these stories real. Until then, shop smart, check the small number first, and keep your receipt handy.